All right, then we're back at Bane taking that one and me predicting that I'd predicted wrong. I said this is one of those I'm going to get wrong.
So in reality,
It's
you got them all
point.
right.
It's half a point, really. So,
Okay.
Anywho, so we start with the bombing run. The bombing run was fantastic. As someone who's in the Alliance tournament, if you're in that fleet, are you picking your targets based on that bombing run?
Yes, I think so. I think you saw right there what they did was that curse got very low, and it caused their logistics pilot to really jump. He got on that, and that was his sole focus. And they put a little DPS on it just to make sure the reps stayed there, and then immediately switched and got an instant kill, I believe, on the Hurricane. So that bombing run created that almost instant kill on that Hurricane.
Can't argue with Michael Bolton.
How good is that Basilisk pilot, though?
Really good. Actually, both logistics pilots in
Yeah.
this fight were really good.
Yeah.
They were both really doing a great job, like getting every inch they could out of it. The bombers were under pressure for tons of the fight.
Yeah.
And he held them up on the Nili Secunda side, and then obviously the Bane Basilisk really had amazing reaction time on some of the target switches. So they both deserve a lot of credit.
They certainly did. The first round of bombs that hit and the curse just basically looked like it was done for, and he was there just really, really quickly. Very, very well-played match. So we see a lot of stealth bombers and Hugins at the same time. Are they some sort of good package together?
Yeah, sure. Because you want to, anytime you have bombers, you're going to want to control range in the fight and make sure that the bombers can sort of be safe or safer than they would be. Often they're going to have damps, so keeping range so the damps can be effective is good. And yeah, any type of setup that's going to try to do damage from range is going to benefit from range control, which the Hugin provides, because it keeps things like Slipners away from your vulnerable DPS ships in the form of the bombers.
Yeah, and also those Hugins are really going to slow down the targets of the bombers. And some of the faster ships in this tournament can really zip out of the range of those torps.
Well, or even not zip out of
Zips
the
out
range,
the explosion radius.
Yeah, the explosion velocity.
Explosion velocity, yeah.
I
I know what I'm talking about.
It's all the
That's
same.
good.
That's fine.
All right, so the stealth bomber setup, it looked like it was kind of going to take off and win.
Yeah.
But it also looks really vulnerable. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it takes a lot of failure to break it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've seen a lot of sort of different mixes, like 3 bombers or 5 bombers, and a lot of similar setups, but with something instead of the bomb. Like the Tangos and Drakes versus bombers, obviously the setups are quite a bit different, but range DPS is always strong in the tournament, and it's interesting, like sort of dilemma whether or not bombers are the best way to go. I don't know. They are vulnerable, I think. I think it's especially with a lot of sabers and thrashers around.
They didn't lose a lot of ships before it went horribly wrong. We've seen some of the other, one of the first, I think it might have been the Kadeshi actually, in the first match that had 2 rooks and a ton of DPS, and they lost the rooks, and that's pretty much all their DPS, but they still won. And this one you just lost 2 stealth bombers, and it basically just snowballed badly.
Yeah.
I think the tighter your fit is, and the more each ship in your fit is important, the more the loss of 1 or 2 ships can really turn around a match.
Especially in a matchup where you have a really strong logistics pilot on the other side. In a match where there's no logistics, if you have a lot of DPS on both sides, but there's not a really strong logistics pilot, you don't necessarily need each of those ships to hold everything together. But in these setups where obviously both logistics were strong enough and the setups were strong enough that they can hold everything together, you need each ship, otherwise things deteriorate so fast. So.
All right. Let's grab 1 or 2 questions from the forums. By the way, I'm on Twitter right now. If you want to follow what's going on, we are on Twitter, both EVE Online and myself and Navigator. If you want to follow what's going on, the hashtags are AT9, EVE Online, and TweetFleet. TweetFleet have been badgering me all day to mention that they are there, and you can use that hashtag. For some of the players on the forums that have been asking questions. Sephanor asks, what do the experts think about drone boats in the tournament? We haven't actually really seen any drone setups.
No, and I feel like they've actually sort of faded from the tournament in general over the last few tournaments. They were strong when Ishtars were a little stronger on the point scale, and you could fill it in with Vexers. And we even saw some arbitrator setups back in like AT6. But I think the way the points have moved around and battlecruisers and command ships have gained a lot of ground, it's harder to set up a drone team.
Well, I think the real power of the drone boats is the ships like the Curse or the Macarial that are purpose-built for something else, but they have a very large drone bay that you can use for the really like the heavy drones, like the heavy rep drones that can really just turn the tank on your logistics into like insane levels of just clawing your way back up through your shields or whatever.
The Curse is probably consistently my favorite tournament ship as well.
Yeah,
It's just always good.
it always is good. Holds strong, especially as long as the format includes logistics.
Yeah.
The Curse is just going to be a necessary tool for breaking logistics chains.
One question we get on the forum slot, and I know Sunset asked the commentators as well, we're not seeing that many Galente ships.
Yeah, and that's actually a funny issue. Like, I'm not... It's funny, I was about to say I'm not an expert, but I have always been less worried about Galente balance than a lot of players. I know that when blasters got changed, and when webs got changed, and kind of over time people have become really concerned about that. And I guess my style of PvP is a lot different than what a lot of people are doing and different than the tournament, but I think blasters are great. I don't think they have a place here as much because range is so important. Being able to hit from a long ways away is just so vital to your ability to function as a team in the tournament. But on TQ, I love blasters. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think that on TQ, Galente requires some balancing, but the difference isn't as drastic as in these predefined battle formats. Like in large-scale fleet warfare, they don't really show up that much. And in the Alliance tournament, they don't really show up. But that's only two very specific groups of PvP. They're great for several other things. The Proteus U-boat fit, where it's like a covert ops Proteus that just sneaks up on people and annihilates them. There's hilarious Galente fits.
But I mean, would it also be safe to say if that drones are kind of being marginalized, so are Galente? Like, we used to see a lot of Ishkurs, used to have some Dominic setups.
Yeah.
If people aren't really using drones, then they're not really using Galente.
It's true. Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, I think that is fair. There's not really a whole lot else that Galente. I mean, if drones aren't going to be an important part of the like core design of the tournament team, Galente is a lot of the time not going to be a good option.
You guys were watching that Badger 2 live. We couldn't really figure out what the role of it was. Did you guys?
I actually tried to look and I couldn't either.
Yeah, I didn't see it drop anything. I think it was, like Shadu said, mostly that you were in the mids.
Well, the only time, I mean, it could have just been ECM. The only times I've talked to people about industrials, they were actually EWAR support rather than offensive EWAR, like remote ECCM or remote sensor boosting. But I tried to look and see if there were particle effects to make me think that was what was going on, and I couldn't tell. I don't think there actually was. So it could have just been a cargo ship, like you were saying, carrying cab boosters, because that was a setup where they were running, was that the one with the Tempest?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they were running 3 dual Newt Tempests probably,
Yeah.
and cab boosters might be really important for that, so maybe that's all it was doing.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's good about those industrials are teams will forget about them. Like, they'll just be like, oh, I got to kill this now, or I got to
That's
kill
because
this
they don't
now.
do anything.
Well, no, but they really can do things, though, with those mid slots.
But.
What?
Now we have to go watch Voltron. Who's going to win this one? Aggravated Assault or We Form Voltron?
Well, there's a bunch of dots, so you'll probably pick aggravated assault.
Aggravated Assault does have 2 dots, which is really good, but We Form Voltron is in all caps, and their main poster is in all green text.
What's your bet?
I'm gonna go We Form Voltron. I'm also a big Voltron
Same.
fan.
I'm going to say aggravated assault just to be contrarian.
Oh, okay. That's fair enough. This is going to be, I think it's going to be We Form Voltron, but there's only one way of finding out.